We just got that decision from the judge on whether or not Donald Trump has in fact violated his gag order again. And the judge has decided that, yes, Donald Trump has now violated it for the 10th time, and he has now been found in criminal contempt yet again. It was a historic decision when the judge decided that he had violated it the initial time. Prosecutors argued he did so on four more occasions. And now, the minute that Donald Trump walked into this courtroom this morning, the judge said that, yes, he had violated it. And he said, going forward, if Donald Trump violates it again, he will consider jail time. I've got CNN Chief Legal Affairs Correspondent Paula Reed and Karen Friedman Agnifilo, the former Chief Assistant District Attorney in the Manhattan DA's office, here with me. And Paula, this is really notable because the judge is saying, I don't want to have to put you in jail, but you're walking up to that line, essentially.
Yeah, clearly the $1,000 per contempt violation fine that he has received so far is not really working as a deterrent. So here the judge said the magnitude of such a decision is not lost on me, and at the end of the day, though, I have a job to do. Now, Trump is shaking his head as they're handing down a paper copy of this ruling. Now, this contempt finding, this comes after last week prosecutors argued that Trump had violated his gag order 4 additional times. The judge had already found that he had violated it 9 times, and based on today, he says, I'm finding you in criminal contempt for the 10th time. It appears, again, based on these live updates we're getting from inside the court, that the judge only found him in contempt for 1 of the additional alleged violations. Now, the judge saying to Trump, your continued willful violations of this court's lawful order constitute a direct attack on the rule of law. Truly extraordinary, Caitlin, that here you have a judge threatening to jail a former president of the United States if he cannot abide by this gag order.
And what's different is the last time he made clear that this was an option, Karen, but now the judge is directly saying it to Donald Trump right now inside that courtroom. As Donald Trump, we are told by reporters inside the room, is looking at this judge. He's saying, I don't want to have to take this step, but this is going to be the next option if you continue to violate this.
Yeah, unfortunately, the statute that is at issue here, the contempt statute, only allows certain options to the court. And he said, look, $1,000 to certain people could be enough to make somebody stop. But for someone who's a billionaire, $1,000 per violation is nothing. And at a certain point, I have no other options than to potentially put you in jail. He doesn't want to do that. He's clearly expressed that he doesn't want to have to put Donald Trump in jail, but he has several options. For example, he could put him in for a few hours. There is a holding cell behind the courtroom that on the 15th floor of 100 Center Street. He could put him in for the day. He could put him in over lunch. He could do it like that as a graduated step towards putting him in overnight.
How does he make the decision on what that looks like? Because he made clear that he's constrained on what the fines can be. He can only decide $1,000 per fine, which he has said clearly just now is not stopping him. I mean, how would he decide how much jail time that would be?
He can take into consideration several things whenever you're sentencing someone, which is essentially what he'd be doing, because he found him beyond a reasonable doubt to have violated this gag order willfully, even though it is technically civil. And so he'll take certain things into consideration. How egregious is it? How many times does he do it? That sort of thing.
So Paula, you're reading through the contempt violation.
Exactly. I'm reading through the judge's actual decision, and one of the arguments that Trump has made consistently throughout this is that the gag order is not fair. It's asymmetrical. He cannot, for example, attack witnesses in this case like Michael Cohen or Stormy Daniels, but they, in particular Michael Cohen, have attacked him repeatedly. And the judge did leave the door open in one of the previous proceedings to saying, yeah, look, you have a point. And interestingly here, the judge says that with 2 of the referenced alleged violations that had to do with Michael Cohen, the judge said the court cannot find beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant's statements referenced were not protected political speech in response to political attacks by Michael Cohen. So here the judge is giving Trump somewhat of a win that 2 of these alleged violations, comments he made directed at Michael Cohen, were protected political speech, because the judge has acknowledged that Michael Cohen repeatedly, consistently attacks the former president. Now, he's the defendant. It's a different standard for him, but here the judge ruling that as protected political speech, something Trump's lawyers have argued repeatedly and up till now unsuccessfully.
Because they were basically arguing that if Donald Trump can't go out and respond to someone like Michael Cohen when he's Todd Blanchard was reading directly from Michael Cohen's tweets, what he has said in podcasts and videos. as a reason that Trump should be able to respond to that he's not just seeking out Michael Cohen specifically to attack him.
Exactly. And they've said, look, this is asymmetrical. This guy attacks Trump all the time. They argue he's made a career out of it, which I think is supported by Michael Cohen's recent body of work, his podcast, his book, right? Revenge. It's what makes him a difficult witness. But here, the judge finding that he cannot find beyond a reasonable doubt that this was not protected political speech. So while Trump is right now being threatened by jail, he's been found in criminal contempt on at least 2 of these violations. The judge agreed with his lawyers.
What about the fact that Trump has continued to talk about this gag order in ways that it's not true? I mean, just going into the courtroom just now, he was complaining, saying that he was being asked questions about this case this weekend, and he could not answer those questions from reporters. I'm not sure which ones specifically because he was posting about this all weekend, Karen. I mean, he can still talk about this case. He just can't directly attack witnesses, the prosecution team, the judge's family, and he can't comment on the jury.
Exactly. He can talk about the case. He can comment on the judge himself. He can talk about Alvin Bragg himself. He can respond to, it sounds like, things that attacks by Michael Cohen. So he can also testify in his own defense. I heard someone ask him as he was going in, are you going to testify? And he said, well, I'm under a gag order again. And the judge has made it very clear that the gag order only talks about statements made outside of court. He can absolutely have a right to testify and take the stand in his own defense.
And I should note, we are now finding out who the next witness is going to be, Jim. It is Jeff McConney. He is a former Trump Organization controller. We were waiting to see who it was going to be next on the witness stand to follow Hope Hicks, and now we've just learned from the judge. Though Trump's team seems to be complaining that they did not get enough advance notice of who today's witness was going to be.
Yeah, that's been a running complaint all along, but it sounds as though, Caitlin, what they're doing here is they're not going from blockbuster witness to blockbuster witness. We saw the week end last week with Hope Hicks. They're not doing that again with Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen right off the bat this Monday morning. But Caitlin, with the breaking news down at the courthouse, thank you. Laura Coates, let me go to you first. I mean, we're now hearing the judge raise this prospect of jail time for Donald Trump. As Karen was saying a few moments ago, it could be an hour, it could be a couple of hours. Might not be overnight, but he's talking jail. He
is. And I want to go to my tablet here because I want to explain to people a little bit about the timing of this and why it is the judge is saying, look, you've been warned before. This happened before. I actually had my order before. I'm going to put this up here for everyone if you can see. And it's the gag order slide I want to look at because you had the original gag order that was issued on this date here on, of course, March 26th. Then you had the different dates where he was alleged to have have these violations in red, on the 10th, the 13th, the 15th, 17th. Some of these were multiple dates, by the way, Jim. Then you had these other due dates in question. You had the 22nd, 3rd, and the 25th there. These all happened, though, and the allegations occurred before this important date here, April 30th, which is when you had the first ruling of the $9,000 in fines, $1,000 for each of the actual posts, which is the maximum they can give, and the post. He didn't have the requisite amount of warning. That's why this is important here. And he says, look, had these happened essentially before, after I'd given this warning, it's a whole different ball game. But now it can escalate beyond that, which is part of the reason why we're so concerned about the idea of, well, why did you wait so long to have, one, the hearing about these issues, and two, to make your decision? Because conceivably, he could have had other dates he violated as well. So you can see it maybe a graduated, now there's notice happening. Whether that will be the deterrent or an invitation to martyrdom is a different story.
Yeah, and I do want to talk about the politics of this with John, Jamie, and Kristen in a moment. But Ellie, to you first. You know, what does the judge gain out of putting Trump in jail for an hour? I mean, is that going to curb his behavior? I mean, he's really in a box here, the judge, a little bit.
The judge has a remarkably limited set of enforcement tools at his disposal here, as Laura was just laying out. All he can do is put these sort of ineffectual $1,000 fines in place, or the big punishment of locking Donald Trump up, even for a few hours, which is fraught politically. It would worry me what that would do to the jury. They would certainly know that he had been locked up for some reason or other. But I think the timeline is crucial here, as Laura was pointing out, because while I share in the criticism of the judge for taking too long to hold these hearings and to issue these rulings, it sort of looks like it's working a little bit, right? Ever since the judge came out last week and said, if I have to, I will lock you up, Trump has not violated the gag order. Now, he doesn't deserve a gold medal for that or anything, but it's been a solid week and change since Donald Trump has actually violated the gag order. And he now seems to understand what he can and cannot do. And let's all keep in mind, this gag order is extraordinarily narrow. Donald Trump, those pre-court rants that he goes on every day where he says the judge is out to get me, these charges are bogus, the DA has bad motives, false as they are, they are allowed within the gag order. So let's hope, for the sake of efficiency moving forward, that we've reached some sort of understanding here and the judge's threats are working.
Yeah, we do have to point out he is not telling the truth about
Right.
the gag order. He continued to say that this morning, just a few moments ago, because I'm under a gag order, I can't do this. You can testify, you can tell your side of the story if you want.
Oddly, the gag order allows him to lie about the gag order.
Exactly. Andrew, your thoughts?
I think it's almost impossible to predict how anything will affect Donald Trump's behavior. So that's the wild
There is
card.
that.
But you have to give him credit for not having violated the gag order since we got the ruling down. So we'll see where that goes. But I do think that Judge Merchan has proven himself to be a guy who will make the tough choice. So if pushed to what he believes is the edge of this cliff, I think you could see jail time coming. How he administers that, an amount of time, or when that jail time is served, are all kind of up in the air. I actually think a post-trial sentence, if you will, is the most likely alternative, because it pushes some of those trial impact, jury impact issues off
He
the
could
table.
say, I'm going to do this to you, but you're going to have to wait. We're all going to have to wait to see that.
It also gives him an opportunity to change his mind before that day comes.